The Concordat ships darkened Earth's skies, their massive hulls blocking out the sun over every major city. Admiral Park Ji-woo stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, watching as the alien coalition's weapons tore through Earth's orbital defenses. The view screens showed destruction spreading across the planet she had sworn to protect. "They've breached the lunar perimeter," Lieutenant Kim Do-hyun reported, his voice steady despite the chaos unfolding on the tactical displays. His fingers moved quickly across the control panel, trying to track the hundreds of enemy vessels now moving toward Earth. Admiral Park nodded grimly. "Begin evacuation protocol Epsilon. All colony ships are to scatter to the designated coordinates." She had hoped this day would never come, but they had prepared for it nonetheless. The Concordat had deemed humanity too unpredictable, too dangerous to exist within galactic society. Their attack came with little warning. Diplomatic channels severed just days before their war fleets arrived. Humanity had only joined the galactic community 30 years ago, and in that time had advanced faster than any species in recorded history. This progress had frightened the older races. As Seoul burned below, Admiral Park made her decision. "Send the message to all remaining military vessels. Operation Phoenix is now active." The bridge crew exchanged glances. They all knew what this meant. It was the plan they had hoped never to use. "Transmitting now, Admiral," said Communications Officer Ba Songmin. His hands trembled slightly as he sent the coded message that would change the course of human history. The Defiant shuddered as enemy fire struck its shields. Red warning lights flashed across the bridge. "Shields at 60%, reported Tactical Officer Ryo Jinho. "Enemy closing in from all vectors." Admiral Park moved to the central command station. The holographic display showed Earth surrounded by Concordat vessels. Blue dots representing human ships blinked out one by one. "What about the civilian evacuation?" she asked. Lieutenant Kim checked his readings. "Colony ships from North America and Europe have cleared the atmosphere. Asian evacuation is at 70%. South American and African ships launching now." Another hit rocked the ship. A console exploded near the rear of the bridge, sending sparks flying. A young ensign rushed to put out the fire. "Shields at 40%, Ryo announced. Admiral Park watched the colony ships escaping Earth's atmosphere. Each carried thousands of survivors, the seeds of humanity that would be scattered across the stars. The plan had always been to hide them in systems too remote for the Concordat to search. "Admiral," said Lieutenant Kim, "the presidential bunker is signaling. President Choi is requesting extraction." Park closed her eyes briefly. "Tell him it's too late. The landing zones are overrun." The Defiant rocked again as more Concordat fire found its mark. "Main power failing," reported Chief Engineer Kang Min-soo over the comm. "Rerouting to backup systems." Through the viewports, Park could see other human ships being torn apart by Concordat weapons. Earth's defense fleet had been built for exploration and peacekeeping, not war against a superior force. "All remaining evacuation ships have cleared Earth's gravity well," announced Lieutenant Kim. 86% of planned evacuation complete. It would have to be enough. Billions would die, but millions would survive, scattered among the stars. "Engage Phase 2 of Operation Phoenix," ordered Admiral Park. Officer Ba nodded and sent another coded transmission. Throughout the solar system, hidden automated systems activated. Data cores containing human knowledge, culture, and scientific achievements launched from secret facilities on Mars, Europa, and Titan. These would follow the colony ships, ensuring humanity's legacy would survive even if their bodies did not. "Admiral," said Ryo, his voice tense, 3 Concordat dreadnoughts approaching. "They're targeting us specifically." Of course they were. The Defiant was the flagship of Earth's fleet. Destroying it would be a symbolic victory. "Helm, set course for coordinates Phoenix Alpha," Park ordered. "Maximum speed." The helmsman, Ensign Ju Hyen, entered the coordinates. "Course set, Admiral." "Execute." The Defiant's engines flared as it broke formation, with the remaining Earth defense vessels. Several Concordat ships immediately changed course to pursue. "They're following us, as expected," noted Ryu. Park nodded. "Launch decoy drones. Make it look like we're trying to escape." The Defiant released dozens of small unmanned craft, each broadcasting signals that mimicked a damaged human warship. "Drones away," confirmed Ryu. "Concordat vessels are splitting their forces to pursue." The ship shuddered again as enemy fire struck. The lights flickered and dimmed. "Shields at 20%, reported Ryu. "Hull breaches on decks 5 through 8. "Seal those sections," ordered Park. She turned to Lieutenant Kim. "Status of the Phoenix cache." Kim checked his readings. "All systems online and ready. Waiting for your command." Park looked at the tactical display one more time. The evacuation ships were now scattered, each heading in a different direction toward the edges of known space. The Concordat would not be able to track them all. "Begin final countdown," she ordered. "Aye, Admiral," responded Kim. Countdown initiated. The bridge crew worked with grim determination. They had all volunteered for this mission, knowing what it meant. "Enemy closing," warned Ryu. Multiple weapons locks detected. The Defiant shook violently as several shots hit simultaneously. Panels exploded, and the lights went out completely before emergency power kicked in. "Shields failed," reported Ryu through the smoke. "Hull integrity compromised." Park steadied herself against the command console. "Time to Phoenix Point." 2 minutes, responded Kim. "Broadcast distress calls on all frequencies," ordered Park. "Make them think we're done for." Officer Ba complied, sending out desperate pleas for help that would never come. On the tactical display, Park watched the Concordat ships closing in, eager to finish off the human flagship. 1 minute to Phoenix Point, announced Kim. The Defiant was barely holding together now. Half the bridge stations were dark, and the hull groaned with every movement. "All hands, prepare for emergency protocol," Park ordered over the ship-wide comm. "This is not the end. Remember your training." The crew moved efficiently despite the chaos, securing systems and moving to designated positions. 30 seconds, said Kim. The Concordat ships surrounded them now, their weapons charged for the final blow. "They're hailing us," reported Ba. "They're demanding our surrender." "Ignore them," said Park. 10 seconds, counted Kim. Park looked at her bridge crew one last time. "For Earth." "For Earth," they echoed. "Activate Phoenix Protocol," ordered Park. Kim pressed the command sequence. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the Defiant appeared to break apart under concentrated Concordat fire. The ship's reactor appeared to go critical, creating a massive explosion that blinded the Concordat sensors. The alien coalition ships moved in to confirm the destruction, scanning the debris field where the human flagship had been. Their sensors showed the complete destruction of the vessel, with no life signs detected. They believed they had witnessed the end of humanity's leadership as the Defiant was destroyed. Reports went out across the Concordat fleet. The human admiral was dead. Their flagship destroyed, their homeworld in ruins. Victory was declared. But they were wrong. Deep in the debris field, a stealth vessel carrying Admiral Park and key personnel from the Defiant slipped away, its advanced cloaking technology making it invisible to Concordat sensors. While the aliens celebrated their victory, the seeds of humanity's return were already being planted. 75 years had passed since Earth fell to the Concordat. On the distant world of Nova Haven, the morning sun cast long shadows across the settlement's central plaza. The air smelled of fresh bread and the local flower that humans had named Starbloom for its shape. Governor Lee Tahoe walked with a slight limp toward the council chambers. At 68, he was one of the few colonists who had been born on Earth. He had been just a child when his family's evacuation ship landed on this world. The council chamber was a simple building made of local timber and stone. Inside, 5 people sat around a circular table. They represented the 50,000 humans who now called Nova Haven home. "Let's begin," said Governor Lee, settling into his chair. Han Sunmai, a woman with short gray hair and sun-darkened skin, placed a tablet on the table. Our agricultural output has increased by 15% this season, she reported with a smile. The hybrid crops are adapting well to the soil. We've successfully crossed earth wheat with the native grain. Governor Lee nodded. Good news. What about the eastern settlement? Construction is ahead of schedule, said Kang Jun, the tall man in charge of expansion. 20 new homes will be ready before the winter rains. This was how humans had survived. By adapting, building, and growing. Nova Haven had started as a desperate outpost of 300 frightened refugees. Their landing craft, never designed for planetary entry, had crashed in a valley. 12 people died that first day. 30 more didn't survive the first winter. But they had persisted. Any word from the Deep Space Array? Asked Governor Lee. Choi Min, the communications officer, shook his head. Nothing new, just the usual background noise. The council members exchanged glances. They all knew what this meant. For decades, they had sent signals into space, hoping to contact other human colonies. They knew others must exist. The evacuation plan had sent ships in all directions, but the vast distances between stars made communication nearly impossible. As far as they knew, they might be the last humans alive. After the meeting, Governor Lee walked home alone. His house sat on a small hill overlooking the settlement. It was a simple place, but it had a view of the valley where they had first landed. A memorial stone marked the crash site. Miles away on the colony's outskirts, engineer Jai-Yun wiped sweat from her forehead. Her workshop was hot despite the open windows. Tools and parts covered every surface. Jai-Yun was known throughout the colony for her ability to fix anything, to make machines work long past their expected life. Hand me the plasma cutter, she said to her apprentice, a teenage boy named Sung Da. The boy passed her the tool, watching carefully as she cut through a metal panel. What are we making today? A better water filter, she replied, focused on her work. The old ones waste too much energy. Jai-Yun was 32, born on Nova Haven to parents who had been born on the colony ship during its journey from Earth. She had never seen humanity's homeworld except in old photographs and videos. When she finished work that evening, Jai-Yun returned to her small home near the edge of the forest. She lived alone, preferring the company of her machines to most people. Her home was cluttered with projects in various stages of completion. She opened a drawer in her bedroom and pulled out a metal box. It had belonged to her grandmother, Park Ji-soo, who had died 10 years ago at the age of 92. Ji-soo had rarely spoken about her mother, Admiral Park Ji-woo, the famous fleet commander who had died defending Earth. The box contained old photographs, a military medal, and a strange device Jai-Yun had never been able to activate. It was smaller than her palm, made of a metal that never seemed to tarnish. It had no visible buttons or controls. Jai-Yun had examined it hundreds of times over the years. Today, she turned it over in her hands once more, studying its smooth surface. "What were you?" she whispered. As she ran her thumb along the edge, she felt something she had never noticed before, a small indentation. She pressed it. Nothing happened. Jai-Yun sighed and set the device down on her workbench. Perhaps it was just a decoration or a broken tool. She began to turn away when a soft humming sound filled the room. The device was vibrating, its surface glowing with a faint blue light. Jai-Yun watched in amazement as the top portion of the device opened like a flower, revealing a small crystal inside. A beam of light shot upward, and suddenly her small room was filled with a three-dimensional image of a woman in a military uniform. The hologram was so clear that Jai-Yun could see the small scar on the woman's left cheek. "Genetic match confirmed," said the hologram in a calm voice. "Hello, granddaughter." Jai-Yun stared at the image of Admiral Park Ji-woo, a woman who had supposedly died 75 years ago. "This message is programmed to activate when found by my direct descendant," the hologram continued. "If you are seeing this, then you have survived. And so have others." Jai-Yun sat down hard on her stool, her legs suddenly weak. Earth's fall was not an end, but a beginning, said Admiral Park. The Concordat believed they'd destroy humanity, but they were deceived. The hologram shifted to show a star map. Several points of light pulsed on the map. These are the coordinates of other human colonies, explained Admiral Park. Nova Haven is just one of 42 successful settlement sites. Each colony ship carried a device like this one, programmed to activate when the time was right. Jai Yun's mind raced. Other colonies existed. Other humans had survived. They were not alone. But most important, continued the Admiral, is what the Concordat never discovered. The star map shifted again, focusing on a system Jai Yun didn't recognize. This is Sanctuary. When the Defiant appeared to be destroyed, I and 300 key personnel escaped on a stealth vessel to this location. The hologram showed images of a massive space station hidden within an asteroid field. For decades, we have been building, planning, and preparing. The Concordat believes humanity is broken and scattered. They don't know that we have been growing stronger in secret. Jai Yun could hardly breathe. This changed everything they had believed about their history. The device you hold contains detailed instructions for building a long-range communication array that can reach Sanctuary. Build it. Contact us. It is time for humanity to emerge from hiding. The hologram of Admiral Park looked directly at Jai Yun, as if she could see her across the decades. The Concordat took our home, but they did not destroy our spirit. They believed humanity was gone, but we have survived. And now, granddaughter, it is time for us to return. The hologram flickered and disappeared, leaving Jai Yun alone in her workshop. The device closed itself, becoming once more a simple metal object in her palm. But everything had changed. Their isolation was over. They were not alone, and they were not forgotten. Jai Yun grabbed her jacket and ran toward the settlement center. Governor Lee needed to hear this immediately. After 75 years of hiding, of merely surviving, humanity was about to take its first step toward a true return. As she ran under the alien stars, Jai Yun felt something she had never experienced before. The weight of history shifting, the future opening before her. Her grandmother's legacy was not just the blood in her veins, but a mission that would change the fate of every human left alive. 3 days had passed since Jai Yun discovered the device. 3 days of explaining, convincing, and planning. Governor Lee had been skeptical at first, but when he saw the hologram with his own eyes, his doubt turned to cautious hope. Now Jai Yun stood in the colony's communication center, a small building that housed Nova Haven's limited broadcasting equipment. With her were Governor Lee, Communications Officer Choi Min, and 2 engineers who had helped her modify the equipment according to the specifications in her grandmother's device. "Are you sure this will work?" asked Governor Lee, watching as Jai Yun connected the last component. "No," Jai Yun admitted, but the instructions were very clear. She had spent 2 sleepless nights studying the technical diagrams contained in the device. The modifications required materials they barely had enough of, and tools that had to be specially made. "If this works, we'll be broadcasting our position to anyone who might be listening," warned Choi Min, including the Concordat. Jai Yun nodded. "My grandmother's message said the signal uses an encrypted frequency that only the other human colonies would recognize." "A 75-year-old encryption," said Governor Lee doubtfully. Jai Yun connected the final wire. "It's ready." The room fell silent. This moment could change everything for Nova Haven. If other human colonies really existed, if Sanctuary was real, they were no longer alone in the galaxy. But if the message was wrong, or if the Concordat had found the other colonies over the decades. "Do it," ordered Governor Lee. Jai Yun pressed the activation sequence. The modified transmitter hummed to life. Lights flickered across its control panel as it sent out a signal stronger than anything Nova Haven had ever broadcast before. Nothing happened at first. The signal went out into the darkness of space, and silence returned. "How long should we wait?" asked Choi Min after several minutes. The nearest colony should be in the Proxima system, said Jai-Yun, checking the star chart from her grandmother's device. That's about 12 light years away. So the signal will take. A sharp tone interrupted her. The communication console lit up with an incoming transmission. Choi Min rushed to the controls. That's impossible. The signal couldn't have reached Proxima yet, let alone gotten a response. He activated the receiver. Static filled the room, then cleared to reveal a woman's face on the screen. She appeared to be in her 60s, with short white hair and dark eyes that widened when she saw them. Nova Haven, she said, her voice filled with wonder. After all these years. Governor Lee stepped forward. This is Governor Lee Tahoe of Nova Haven. Who am I speaking with? Colonel Moon, Co. Yun of Sanctuary Defense Command. The woman replied. We've been waiting for your signal for a very long time. Jai-Yun pushed forward. Sanctuary. But that's not possible. You couldn't have received our signal so quickly. Colonel Moon smiled. We didn't need to receive it. We've been monitoring Nova Haven for decades. The signal you just sent activated a dormant relay satellite in your system. We've had eyes on all 42 colonies since they were established. Jai-Yun felt a mix of shock and relief. You've been watching us all this time. Why didn't you contact us sooner? Security, said Colonel Moon simply. The Concordat still patrols the galaxy. Admiral Park believed the colonies needed to develop independently, at least until they were ready. And now we're ready, asked Governor Lee. That's for you to decide, replied Colonel Moon. But I can tell you that times are changing. The Concordat is expanding again. They've begun moving into territories near several human colonies. Governor Lee exchanged a worried look with Choi Min, including ours. I need to speak with Admiral Park, Jai-Yun interrupted. My grandmother. Is she still alive? A shadow passed over Colonel Moon's face. Admiral Park passed away 15 years ago, at the age of 103. But she left detailed instructions for this moment. Instructions for you specifically, Jai-Yun. Jai-Yun felt a pang of loss for the grandmother she'd never met. What instructions? The device you found contains more than just communication plans, said Colonel Moon. It has the specifications for activating a network that connects all human colonies. Admiral Park called it the Phoenix Network. Over the next 2 days, Jai-Yun hardly slept. Following the new instructions from Colonel Moon, she and a team of engineers worked to expand the modified communication array. What they built was far beyond Nova Haven's usual technology. A quantum entanglement transmitter that allowed instant communication across vast distances. When they activated it, signals began coming in from other colonies. First 1, then 3, then a dozen. Colonies with names like New Eden, Horizon, and Liberty Point. Places where humans had been living, growing, and building for 3 generations, each believing they might be the last remnants of their species. The council hall became their command center. Screens showed faces of leaders from across the stars. Some human colonies were small like Nova Haven. Others had grown to hundreds of thousands of people. All had stories to share of survival, adaptation, and hope. We've maintained a mining outpost in the Bellatrix system, reported Governor Kim from Horizon Colony. The Concordat doesn't venture there. Our scientists have developed new propulsion systems based on salvaged alien tech, added Director Park from Liberty Point. Information flowed freely for the first time in generations. Star charts were compared, technology shared, histories exchanged. The scattered remnants of humanity were becoming something more, a network, a community, perhaps even the beginnings of a new nation. On the 5th day, Jai-Yun received a private message from Colonel Moon. We need to talk. Alone. When the others had left the communication center, Jai-Yun accepted the transmission. Colonel Moon's face appeared, more serious than before. We've detected Concordat scout ships near your system, she said without preamble. 3 vessels, probably a standard patrol, but they're closer than they've ever been to Nova Haven. Jai-Yun felt cold fear grip her stomach. Do they know we're here? Not yet, but it's only a matter of time. Your colony's energy signature has grown over the years, and now with the Phoenix network active, there's increased radiation from your transmitters. Can we hide it? Asked Jai-yun. Too late for that, said Colonel Moon. But there's something else you need to see. The screen split, showing a different view. It was a massive shipyard, floating in space. Dozens of vessels were visible, larger and more advanced than anything Jai-yun had seen in the old Earth records. This is Sanctuary, explained Colonel Moon. What Admiral Park built over 75 years. We recovered Concordat technology, studied it, improved it. We've built a fleet, Jai-yun, a fleet that can stand against the Concordat. Jai-yun stared at the ships. They were beautiful, sleek, and powerful. You're coming to help us. Not yet, said Colonel Moon. The fleet isn't quite ready, and moving now would alert the Concordat to our existence. We need more time. But if they find Nova Haven, that's why I'm contacting you, interrupted Colonel Moon. Your grandmother left something else on Nova Haven, something hidden beneath the original landing site. Jai-yun thought of the memorial stone marking where the first ships had crashed. What is it? A defense system, said Colonel Moon. One that can protect your colony until the fleet is ready. You need to find it and activate it. Soon. As the transmission ended, Jai-yun looked out the window at the peaceful colony. The people of Nova Haven had no idea how quickly their world might change. The aliens believed humanity nearly extinct, scattered, and hiding. They were about to discover how wrong they were. Lee Minho had never left Nova Haven before. Now he found himself on a small transport ship traveling faster than he thought possible, heading toward a location he had never heard of until a week ago. The stars streaked past the viewport as the ship's enhanced engines pushed them through space. We're approaching Meeting Point Alpha, announced the pilot, a woman from Sanctuary named Choi Anna, preparing for docking procedures. Lee looked out at what appeared to be a large, irregular asteroid. As they drew closer, he could see lights flickering within natural cracks in its surface. The asteroid was hollow, converted into a secret base. How long has this been here? He asked. 20 years, replied Choi. Built by automated drones to serve as a neutral meeting place when the time came. The ship passed through a hidden entrance that opened just long enough to admit them. Inside was a docking bay where 11 other small vessels were already secured. Each bore markings from different human colonies. Lee felt his heart beat faster. In all his 53 years, he had never met humans from outside Nova Haven. As Nova Haven's chief diplomat, his job had mostly involved settling disputes between farmers and coordinating with the various settlement zones. Now he would represent his entire colony to strangers who were somehow also his people. A guide led him through carved tunnels to a circular chamber at the asteroid's center. Inside, 11 people sat around a large table. They looked up as he entered, studying him with curious eyes. Nova Haven has arrived, announced the guide. All 12 colonies are now represented. Lee took the empty seat, nodding to the others. They varied in age and appearance, but all shared the same tension in their expressions. They knew why they were here. An older man with a gray beard stood. I am Director Choi Sung-min of the Sanctuary Diplomatic Corps. Thank you all for coming. The risk you've taken will not be forgotten. Some of us had no choice, said a tall woman with a scar across her cheek. I'm Kang Haijin from Osiris Colony. Concordat scouts have already entered our system. It's only a matter of time before they find us. Murmurs spread around the table. Some colonies had remained completely hidden, while others had already faced close calls with Concordat patrols. How many colonies have been contacted by Sanctuary? Asked a young man from Horizon Colony. All 42 have received the activation signal, replied Director Choi. 28 have responded so far. You 12 represent the largest or most strategically important settlements. And what exactly does Sanctuary propose? Asked Lee, speaking for the first time. We've lived in hiding for 75 years. My people have built homes, families. Are we to abandon everything and run again? No more running, said Kang Hai-jin firmly. Osiris votes to fight. A thin man with glasses shook his head. Fight? With what? Most of us barely have defense systems, let alone weapons that could challenge the Concordat. We've lived in hiding for too long. We should remain hidden, build our strength further. The Concordat is expanding, countered Kang. They'll find all of us eventually. Better to choose our moment than wait for theirs. The debate grew heated. Some representatives argued for a coordinated evacuation to more distant systems. Others proposed revealing themselves and attempting diplomatic contact with the Concordat, hoping 75 years had softened their stance toward humans. Lee listened carefully to all sides. Nova Haven's council had instructed him to prioritize their people's safety, but they had given him authority to make the final decision. The future of 50,000 souls rested on his judgment. As voices raised and tempers flared, the chamber doors suddenly opened. The room fell silent as Jai-yun entered. Behind her walked an elderly woman leaning on a cane, her back bent with age, but her eyes sharp and clear. Lee stood in shock. "That's impossible," he whispered. The old woman looked around the room, meeting each representative's gaze before speaking. "I am Admiral Park Ji-woo," she announced, her voice stronger than her frail appearance suggested. "And I bring you humanity's answer to the Concordat." The representatives stared in disbelief. Admiral Park was a legend, a hero from the last days of Earth. She was supposed to have died 75 years ago during the final battle. "How?" asked Kang Hai-jin, finding her voice first. "The Concordat believed they destroyed my ship," explained Admiral Park. "They believed they witnessed the end of humanity's leadership. But like humanity itself, I survived." She nodded to Jai-yun, who activated a control panel on the table. A holographic display appeared in the center of the room, showing hundreds of vessels, a fleet larger and more advanced than anything humanity had possessed before its fall. Ships built in secret, incorporating technologies the Concordat couldn't imagine. "For 75 years, we have prepared," continued Admiral Park. "Every colony ship carried engineers, scientists, and military personnel specifically chosen for the skills we would need. While you built your new homes, Sanctuary built our future." Lee stared at the fleet in amazement. Some ships were massive, dwarfing anything he had seen in historical records of Earth's defenses. "We don't seek revenge," Admiral Park said firmly. "We seek our rightful place among the stars. The Concordat believe they eliminated a threat. We will show them they eliminated a potential ally." "How can we trust this?" asked the thin man with glasses. "How do we know these ships actually exist, that they can stand against the Concordat?" Admiral Park smiled slightly. "A fair question. Jai-yun, show them." Jai-yun touched another control. The hologram changed to show real-time footage of the fleet. The camera panned across vast shipyards hidden within an asteroid field. Workers moved around the vessels, preparing them for action. "The Phoenix fleet is real," said Jai-yun. "I've seen it with my own eyes. I spent the last month at Sanctuary, learning what my grandmother built." Lee looked at Jai-yun with new respect. The colony engineer had disappeared weeks ago, leaving only a message that she was following her grandmother's instructions. Now she had returned with humanity's greatest secret. "The Concordat has detected unusual activity in several colony systems," Admiral Park continued. "They've dispatched investigation fleets. Nova Haven will likely be their first target due to the quantum communication signals recently detected there." Lee felt cold fear for his people. "How long do we have?" "Days, perhaps," said Admiral Park, "which is why we must decide now. Will we stand together, or will each colony face the Concordat alone?" The room was silent as the representatives considered the choice before them. "What do you propose, Admiral?" asked Kang Hai-jin finally. "A united front. The Phoenix Coalition, all human colonies working as one, with the fleet as our shield," answered Admiral Park. "We reveal ourselves on our terms, not theirs. "And if they attack?" asked Lee. "Then we defend ourselves," said Admiral Park simply. "But we offer peace first." The representatives began to discuss among themselves. Some immediately supported the plan, while others expressed doubts. Could humanity truly stand against the power that had destroyed Earth? But as the discussion continued, a message arrived for Director Choi. He read it with a grim expression before addressing the room. "It seems our timeline has accelerated," he announced. "Concordat warships have been detected approaching Nova Haven. They'll arrive within 48 hours. Lee felt his blood run cold. His colony, his home, would be the first target. Admiral Park looked at the gathered representatives. "The time for debate is over. Nova Haven needs our help. Will the Phoenix Coalition stand together for the first time?" One by one, the representatives voted. By the end, all 12 had agreed to unite under the Phoenix banner. As they finalized the details of their alliance, Lee approached Jae-yun. "Did you know about your grandmother?" Jae-yun shook her head. "I thought she died years ago. Turns out that was a cover story. She wanted to meet the colony representatives personally, and the defense system beneath Nova Haven's landing site. It's activated," Jae-yun assured him. "It will shield the colony until help arrives." Lee nodded, taking some comfort in that. But as he looked at the elderly admiral speaking with the other representatives, he wondered if humanity was truly ready for what was coming. The scattered remnants were gathering. The storm was upon them. Concordat Commander Vrex stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Inevitable Truth. His scaled skin gleamed under the ship's lights as he watched the small blue-green planet on the main view screen. Nova Haven, the humans called it. Soon it would be just another conquered world in the Concordat records. "Scans confirm a human settlement," Commander reported, his second-in-command. "Approximately 50,000 life forms. Primitive defenses, no orbital stations." Vrex clicked his jaw plates together in satisfaction. This would be easy. After 75 years, the Concordat had almost forgotten about the human problem. But Vrex had studied the old records. He knew the danger these creatures posed if left unchecked. How did they remain hidden for so long? He wondered aloud. "Unknown, Commander. The settlement appears to be at least third generation." Vrex considered this. If one human colony had survived, others might exist as well. Finding and eliminating this one would earn him prestige. Finding more would make him a hero of the Concordat. "Move into bombardment position," he ordered. "Target their main population centers first." The Concordat fleet, 15 warships strong, formed a precise attack formation above Nova Haven. On the planet below, warning sirens wailed across the colony. In the central plaza, Governor Lee Tae-ho watched the sky darken as enemy ships moved into position. Unlike past drills, he didn't order the people to shelter. Instead, he had told them to wait and watch. "Are you sure about this?" asked Han Sunmai, standing beside him. Governor Lee nodded. Jae-yun was very clear. "We need to be visible. They need to believe they have us trapped." Around them, thousands of colonists stood in the open, faces turned upward. Some looked afraid, but most showed a strange calm. They had faith in the plan, faith in the promise that they were not alone. On the Concordat flagship, Vrex's second-in-command looked up from the scanner. "Commander, the humans are gathering in the open. They're not seeking shelter." Vrex frowned. "Perhaps they've accepted their fate. Begin orbital bombardment." The massive weapons on the Concordat vessels hummed with power, preparing to rain destruction on the helpless planet below. "Weapons at full charge," reported the weapons officer. "Ready to fire on your command." Vrex raised his hand, ready to give the order that would eliminate another human settlement from the galaxy. "Commander," the sensor officer called suddenly, detecting unusual energy readings, some kind of spatial distortion forming. Space itself seemed to fold at multiple points around the Concordat fleet. Where there had been empty vacuum moments before, hundreds of vessels suddenly appeared, sleek, powerful ships bearing an emblem of a bird rising from flames. Impossible, whispered Vrex, staring at the tactical display. The human ships, for they could only be human, were like nothing in Concordat records. They were larger, more advanced, more numerous than anything humanity had possessed even before their defeat. Aboard the flagship Phoenix Ascendant, Admiral Park Ji-woo sat in the command chair. At 103 years old, she was frail in body but sharp in mind. This moment was the culmination of 75 years of planning, building, and waiting. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said Colonel Moon, standing at her side. Around them, the bridge crew worked with calm efficiency. Many were third-generation sanctuary-born, descendants of the original Earth military that had escaped with Admiral Park. "Deploy the shields," ordered Admiral Park. Colonel Moon relayed the command. Throughout the Phoenix fleet, advanced shield generators activated. But rather than just protecting individual ships, the energy fields expanded, connecting and overlapping until they formed a vast protective dome that encompassed not just the fleet but Nova Haven itself. On the planet's surface, the colonists gasped as the sky lit up with a shimmering curtain of energy. The Concordat weapons fired, sending powerful energy beams toward the planet. The bombardment struck the shield and dissipated harmlessly, like rain against a window. On the Concordat flagship, Vrex stared in disbelief. "What is this? How do they have this technology?" His tactical officer was frantically checking the readings. "The shield technology is similar to our own, Commander, but more advanced. It's operating on principles our scientists theorized but never implemented." "Sir," called the communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from the human flagship." Vrex hesitated, then nodded. "Put it through." The main view screen changed to show an elderly human female. Despite her age, her eyes were sharp and commanding. "This is Admiral Park Ji-woo of the Phoenix Coalition," she said, her voice steady. "Humanity has returned, Commander. We offer you this choice. Recognize us as equals and withdraw, or face a force that has spent 75 years preparing for this moment." Vrex recognized the name from historical records. "Admiral Park died defending Earth," he said. "This is some trick." The old woman smiled slightly. "The Concordat believed many things about humanity that were not true. Our death was just one of them." She gestured, and the screen split to show dozens of other locations across the galaxy. In system after system, human fleets were appearing, protecting colonies the Concordat had never found. "While you believed us scattered and broken, we were building, learning, growing," continued Admiral Park. "We studied your technology, improved upon it. The Phoenix Coalition now unites all surviving human colonies." Vrex looked at his tactical display. The human ships outnumbered his fleet 10-1, and their technology was clearly superior. Fighting would be suicide. "What do you want?" he asked, mandibles clicking in agitation. "Peace," replied Admiral Park simply. "The war between our people ended 75 years ago. The Concordat believed they had eliminated a threat. We're here to show you that you eliminated a potential ally instead. The Concordat Council will never accept humans as equals," said Vrex. "They will," said Admiral Park confidently, "because the alternative is to face what humanity has become. We don't seek revenge for Earth, Commander. We seek our rightful place among the stars." Vrex considered his options. His orders had been to eliminate a small human outpost, not confront a massive fleet with superior technology. "I will withdraw and report to the Council," he said finally. "But this is not over." "No," agreed Admiral Park. "It's just beginning." As the Concordat ships retreated, cheers erupted across Nova Haven. Governor Lee looked up at the human vessels protecting their skies and felt something he had not experienced in a long time: hope. Jai-yun stood beside him, watching the ships through the fading shield. "My grandmother kept her promise," she said softly. "All those years in hiding," said Governor Lee. "All those years of just surviving. And now we live," finished Jai-yun. In orbit, Admiral Park watched the Concordat fleet depart. Colonel Moon approached her chair. "The other colony fleets report similar success," she said. "The Concordat is retreating everywhere." Admiral Park nodded. "They'll return, of course, with more ships, more questions. But by then, our diplomats will have reached out to other species in the galaxy. The Concordat will find that the balance of power has shifted." "Was it worth it?" asked Colonel Moon. "The long wait? The secrecy?" Admiral Park looked down at Nova Haven, at the world her granddaughter had grown up on. "Earth was our past," she said. "This is our future." Throughout the galaxy, the message spread from world to world, species to species. Humanity had not perished. They had evolved, united, and returned stronger than ever. Humanity's exile was over. Their return had just begun.